That was the first alarm that went off for me. You could say that like my first alarm would be Poe, the joking scene with Hux, even though like it's fun and quippy. This is the problem that Disney, I don't think they're getting it, or I don't like, I'm not sure if the directors themselves are hamming it in, or is Disney saying this is mandatory, we need to have a recurring theme in Marvel and in Star Wars, and every single movie we're making, we need to have this quippy dialogue sort of funny thing. For one, that was not Star Wars at the very least, like nothing resembling Star Wars. You have banter, yes, but that was not really banter. I have never in my life I would have never imagined somebody some other Star Wars character telling another Star Wars character, "We have a message for your mother." That's just playground humor, to me at least, because people say that,
exactly,
that there's humor in the original trilogy. Of course there is, but that's adult humor or sarcastic humor or something along those lines. This is playground humor. This is Rebels humor, Ezra humor. So we're like, you can't put that in a major Star Wars film. Like, I have a message, or Leia has a message for your mother. I don't know which one was it, but it doesn't even matter, because it's just, I saw that and I was like, alarm, boom. I was like, I hope they don't. We know Poe Dameron is gonna be quippy, he's gonna be funny, but maybe they will move on from this. Okay, we understand. At the first scene in The Force Awakens, he like it's a recurring theme with him now, that like he confronts the bad guys and he jokes around with them. So with Kylo Ren, he's like, who talks first? I talk first, you talk first, whatever. Ha ha ha. Then in this one, he's like hugs, or he doesn't call him Hux, but hugs. So something like funny, sure, whatever. This is the part where, and Glenn, I'm gonna leave you to talk a bit more, but this is the problem. This is the like axe to the stomach that I got, and I wasn't sure what was happening at that moment. Is the Skywalker lightsaber. So basically, it's this monumental thing. The Skywalker's lightsaber, to me, I would say for Star Wars, it's sacred. It's basically the C-3PO R2-D2 of lightsabers, I think, because the only movie we don't see the Skywalker lightsaber is Return of the Jedi. Every single other movie. Phantom Menace, Return of Jedi, no Skywalker lightsaber. Other than that, we see the Skywalker lightsaber in every major Star Wars film. Then, even leaving off that, like, whatever the case may be, maybe for somebody is not that important. I get it. But if we move on to the other thing, The Force Awakens leaves off with this monumental scene and this gigantic moment where Rey, without talking, beautiful scene, without talking, nobody says, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" No, nothing like that. She stops. He turns. Rey gets her lightsaber, gets the Skywalker lightsaber out, and extends it to Luke as a symbol of "come back." And you could. If you see The Force Awakens, if you see that scene again, because they removed it in The Last Jedi in the beginning, but if you see The Force Awakens again, that particular scene, Luke is teared up. His eyes are all red and teary. So this is an extremely big moment in the Star Wars like saga, I would say. And the result of that is Luke takes the lightsaber and throws it.
See. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bessie.
I was just gonna say that when that happened, like Andrew just said, I'm a pretty when it comes to Star Wars. My God, am I focused? Like I don't want to even talk to anybody. I just want to watch the film. When that happened, I'm sure, like I said, what the f just happened at least 10 times. The scene went on, and I was still saying, and I was still looking around to my wife and to my friends and everybody. Like we went as a group, and I was like, "What the hell? What happened? I'm sure I said it 10 times, because at that time I was shell-shocked, completely shell-shocked. And what's worse is that it went on to be that recurring theme when it was just very intense scene, boom, humor. Very intense scene, boom, humor. And it was kind of wrecking it for me. But Glenn, go ahead. What did you think?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I went along for the ride on both scenes that you guys are talking about. Like I have to admit, I did laugh at both. However, I have to agree with you guys that it just the humor part, and more so with the back and forth between Poe and Hux, it just seemed like it was just such poor timing because we get the opening crawl, which suggests to us that the First Order has done a great job of starting to like infringe upon New Republic territory at this point, and we get them finding the Resistance base and apparently going to be taking them out. And then at this point, we get comedy, and it just takes the urgency out of the entire scene. I mean, it was funny because, I mean, there is comedy in Star Wars, but it just seemed like at these times, right at the beginning of the movie, it was just tonally, it just set it up for like, okay, well, if Poe's not concerned, then I'm not too concerned here either. Nonetheless, that he's facing the First Order dreadnought for the first time that we get to see.
Yes.
I don't know. I just like we're buying one starfighter taking out all of those point defense turrets and things like this. It just seemed like there was absolutely no urgency until the bombers arrived. But even then, it's like I think we know where this is going to go.
Kind of.
The moment has passed. I mean, I would have rather preferred an Empire Strikes Back. Okay, now we're seeing the military might of the First Order at this point. The Luke aspect with throwing the lightsaber, I could have bought a bit more, I guess, if it paid off a bit more in the end. But like you were just saying there, Bessie, it happened, and I don't know if we if we got the payoff from that moment that I was expecting.
To me, absolutely not. Like, that's not Star Wars. Absolutely not. That's not Star Wars. That's Marvel, but that's not Star Wars. Absolutely not. Like, I can't really. I should have recorded myself because I still like remember not. I was outside of my body. It was an outside of body experience at that time when he threw his lightsaber. Like it was an out of body experience. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and unfortunately, it went on to be a bit like they couldn't go further down than that. So it went on to be a bit better, I guess, but it was still like if we go a bit further down the line to the film, we have this. Mm-hmm. We have the death of Snoke. Nobody expected that. Like I for months I was joking around. Last Jedi spoilers: Snoke is dead, without even like joking around, because no way Snoke was gonna be dead. Snoke is dead. Great. Like you want to take the storyline to another level. There is a lot of discussion about that we're gonna have now. But what happens is Snoke dies. And the next scene is Hux at the throne room. And there's the face of Snoke. Doesn't really seem dramatic. It seems comedic because it seems like a corpse.
It seemed comedic.
Yeah, his tongue is out and he seemed like a
tongue
puppet.
Is hanging out.
Exactly. After that, it shows the lower body of Snoke, and Hux is looking at it, and it just falls over. Boom, boom, and it's just it's a ha moment for the death of one of the biggest villains that was supposed to be one of the biggest villains in Star Wars, and it's a ha moment.
Can I just interject real quick on the Snoke thing? Okay, number one, I think that we got that not necessarily just as a humorous moment, but also because George Lucas was insane and brought Darth Maul back in the Clone Wars. He wanted to make sure that we knew that he wasn't coming back. He didn't want to leave anything open for that. Mm-hmm. Because Maul got cut in half too. Yeah. Number two, honestly, I found it amusing because I am pro, if you know the infamous sticker, I guess. But the infamous sticker of your Snoke theory sucks.
Sure.
I am very much pro that sticker. because I'm going to be totally blunt. A big problem with the Star Wars fandom is expectations. And I had that problem with Rogue One. Rogue One was a massive disappointment for me because I walked in there having a ton of expectations. I expected, a grand charge that we never got. I expected, us to not have any sort of themes of destiny about it, whatever. And I was disappointed because that's not the story that they wanted to tell. And a lot of the complaints about The Last Jedi for me that I'm seeing are.
I know what you mean. I absolutely understand what you're trying to say. Like what you did now took an example of Rogue One is the perfect example. So they all the time they reference that Rogue One is not going to be Jedi, Sith, is not going to be Skywalker family, nothing to do with that. It's a separate movie. And of course, like people went into expecting something that wasn't there. Sure, I could agree with you that this is the main episode. But without even saying that this is the main episode, see, most of the internet that I'm seeing out there is Disney ruined Star Wars, and it's the storyline. You cannot really emphasize that like Star Wars is ruined, but you haven't seen Episode 9 yet. So just chill out, wait a bit. We're going to see Episode 9, and maybe like that's going to be the cap to all this situation. Maybe we're going to find out why this happened like it did. So, of course, I'm going to wait until Episode 9. But Andrew, my biggest issue that I've been talking about for almost half an hour now is the humor. That's not Star Wars humor. Like, absolutely doesn't even come close. As I said, like in the beginning, I've never imagined that another Star Wars character would say to another Star Wars character, "We have a message for your mother." Ha ha ha. And it's like, what?
Okay.
And Luke throwing the Skywalker lightsaber nonchalantly, leading up the ending of The Force Awakens was a big waste then. Like, I know what they were trying to do. I know that they were saying he doesn't want to go back. Luke doesn't care, doesn't want to go back. He wants to, as he said, like, I want to die.
Yes.
And I don't want to. I understand that, but there's better way. Like, that's not Star Wars. That's never been Star Wars. Star Wars is about smart humor, not. I'm sorry to say this, child humor. This was child humor. And the people that I saw... Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I still laughed. I still laughed at most of the jokes. That's my point, is that Star Wars...
How much of that laugh, though, was peer pressure? Because you were in the theater with 100
Not
people.
at all. Everybody else in the theater was sitting there stunned like you, because I watched it, I was seeing it on Thursday, opening night here in the United States. And it's just like Donna, a good friend of mine in the chat. Star Wars is a franchise that exists to pay money. I realize that they want to tell their story, but the fans pay their bills. We get to have expectations. Yes, but we don't get to write it for them. There are serious issues with this movie. The tonal issues, the pacing are a little bit messed up. Some of the humor didn't land for me. A lot of the humor didn't land for me.
Yeah.
But we don't get to write the thing for them because it's...
Well, two things I can give you is what you're saying, we can't write things for them. So I felt disappointed when Luke died, but that doesn't mean like I'm going to go in the internet and say, like, screw Disney, they killed off Luke and this is awful, this is crazy. They have a story in place. Give them a chance. Let's see Episode 9. Of course, in my opinion, Luke shouldn't have died, and I think we even discussed this in before we went to the movie. Like, should Luke die or will Luke die in Episode 8? And I think none of us said that Luke will die. I think we all agreed that he will survive till Episode 9 and then be killed off. But it's I don't agree with Snoke and Luke. but there is something to it, and we're gonna see it in episode 9. So yeah, I understand what you're at that point that you're referencing. Like, they have a plan in place, and whether we like it or not, we should give them a chance and see where this is going. But let me ask you a different question then, Andrew. Is this like they're making it for the fans? Are they making it for themselves, or are they making it for the fans?
They're making it to make money.
Yeah, that's the prequels behind the scenes answer. So give me an in-universe answer.
An in-universe answer. I do think for what it's worth, and I do realize that this makes me biased. I'm a massive Rian Johnson fan.
Sure.
I told I'm not sure if I said this on this podcast, but I have a friend of mine who went to, I think I did, where Rian Johnson actually bothered to remember my friend's name for 45 seconds when he was already meeting 3,500 other Star Wars fans. Quite literally 3,500 other Star Wars fans.
That's
the fact that he actually bothered to remember that. And when you look at the Star Wars show that came out just before, not the 13th, but the week before.
Yeah,
where Rian Johnson received the AT-AT.
Mm-hmm.
He is a fan. He loves this just as much as we do.
Exactly. He was like a kid on receiving a gift. It was awesome to see, but like I don't really know. Like if he for me at least, if he agreed aloud, or what's worse, I hope he didn't, if he wrote that humor. To me, the biggest problem is the humor. Like, I'm being totally honest. There are plot holes, and there are some things that we can talk about. Like, many people are also referencing the Leia Superman scene. Now it's become famous, but it's the humor. Really, it's unforgivable for me. And this is the thing. I don't know if Disney is pressuring these directors, whether it be Marvel or Star Wars. Is Disney pressuring these directors to implement this kind of humor, or is this the new generation of directors that really, to me at least, they don't understand adult humor? If you want to understand adult humor, watch the original trilogies. That's banter, quippy. That's
Can I bring up C-3PO?
Sure.
And R2-D2 in A New Hope, where they're kicking each other, and
Andrew, we're talking about.
I'm just saying that's child humor for me.
No, I'm gonna answer you. That's 1 second child humor. That's not 1 minute of Poe. I'm gonna hang on to the line until Hux comes in. That's not 1 minute humor. That's 1 second humor. One kick, done. I can accept that. I swear I can accept that. If Poe was on the line and he said, like, instead of Hux, he said hugs, or whatever, thin, pale dude, sure, okay, I would say, okay, he made his, like, quick thingy. He has, like, I'm waiting for hugs, a thinny, like, white dude. It's
Hello
like,
there.
haha, okay, I get it. Whatever. But he stayed 1 minute and just berated. And it's like, you could see that the character of Hux is not really, cannot handle that type of humor. And they were going for, you see these uptight people, they don't know that people are making fun of them. But it's too long. That you can't have, as like Glenn just pointed out earlier, it's not like it takes out the seriousness of the moment. After that, or like we were, whatever happens, we don't care. Because he just went like from joking to blowing up all the turrets, and like everything is basically nonchalant after that, at least for me.
Well, think too, Bessie, if that type of scene happened in Empire Strikes Back when they were raiding the Hoth base, Rebel base.
Absolutely, that's my main. Like I always for the past few days, I'm constantly saying that. Imagine the fight on, imagine Palpatine. The scene with Snoke when he falls and when he's on the chair, and when we see his puppet face and his whatever. It's a comedy scene. Imagine if Vader throws off Palpatine and like as Palpatine is falling, he hits a power nod and just goes like says oh, and like it's kind of a funny moment, but it's this big moment, and it doesn't make sense. Sure.
Palpatine getting knocked over his desk and then falling on his chair ass up in Revenge of the Sith.
That is unintentional humor. That's not intentional humor.
No, that was intentional humor. That had to have been intentional. There's no way you put that shot into a movie without that being intentional.
George Lucas prequel.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. I underestimate George Lucas prequel, but still.
Okay, what I said, like I was talking to my wife a lot, and I was like, we sat down and because we seriously didn't know how to feel. My wife, of course, liked it much more than I liked it too, and it left me an emotional, like it was an emotional roller coaster. But for me, the humor was just it was so cringy. And what I gave an example to her was, what if it's the scene on Empire Strikes Back, and it's Darth Vader revealing to Luke, I am your father. So if Marvel had done that scene, Marvel would be like, Luke, I am your father. And Luke would be like, really? Yes, I am your father. Stop lying.
But The Last Jedi didn't do that, though.
Search your feelings, Luke. I'm not lying. Search your feelings. No. And it would be like this elongated comedy scene, and we would go from comedy to seriousness in a split second, which I don't know. I accepted all the wink winks and the comedy bits in The Force Awakens. I honestly think J.J. Abrams did a better job of at least the humor. Like I liked the humor in The Force Awakens much more, because it was secondary.
On that I agree with you. Mm-hmm. I do agree that the humor in this, there was way too much humor for me in the first half, or the first 10 hour of the movie. Yeah. But I think that they did that because they wanted to front load that humor to get us ready for the absolute insanity that happened, during the great.
That's exactly what Ryan Johnson said. I saw an interview with him yesterday. He said that he tried to front load the humor at the beginning, but I agree with you guys. There was a lot even at the end. Like, we even had some Hux comedy come in at the end, even on Crate. But exactly. I don't think it got to a dark enough. I mean, it got dark, right? I mean, it did on Crate. You got some intense moments, but it doesn't bother me to the extent where, as long as it doesn't, like the stuff with Hux, it seemed like they were really undercutting Hux in the First Order. The Luke lightsaber, like I'll admit, I think Andrew said he laughed. I laughed as well, but I thought that it set up the relationship between Luke and Rey. So when it's done right, it's good, but when it starts to undercut Hux, like of course they're going to make it out, and I know they lost the whole bomber team, but of course they're going to make it out. Hux would work if they had an offsetting Tarkin type character, or even someone like a Piet. I know they had the guy next to him, but Hux was really in control there. But I have to admit, the humor, it was over the top. Where it didn't work is where it didn't work, but in the sections like the Luke Skywalker lightsaber, it worked a little bit more for me as more of a setup to that story. So,
you mean the scene where he throws it off his shoulder?
Yeah, like that was less egregious to me than the Hux Poe phone call during that battle scene.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. No,
just to defend the Hux Poe banter, I guess you could call it that, trolling. the Poe trolling Hux. I took that as it was Ryan Johnson signaling us, going, "Yeah, this ain't your daddy's Star Wars."
This ain't your daddy's Star Wars, but by the way, Snoke is gonna die, Luke is gonna die, and we're gonna have this crazy emotional film.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of crazy to me. Like, how can you people, I swear, not the first viewing. The first viewing was, I think all of us in there were kind of we were on the same level. Like it had this humor, but we were too focused, and there wasn't like a voice in the crowd. Like nobody was shouting, nobody was talking, nobody was laughing either. And the first viewing went perfect for me. I just didn't like the humor. What happened the second time I went in, and this is when I confirmed that the humor is the worst thing about this movie. And I've been talking for humor, but you have to listen to this. The second viewing, I go in, and there's these guys behind me, a group in front of me, like 2 rows in front of me, and I guess a bunch of others, but I could hear them mostly. The first viewing, I didn't even realize that there were so much comedic things in this film, because I was focused in the film. The first viewing, nobody really laughed that much. The second viewing, every 5 minutes, people were laughing uncontrollably. I'm talking uncontrollably. One of them choked on his Coke. So it was that bad when, and I think it was the scene when Luke throws the lightsaber, because he just lost it at that point. So people were laughing uncontrollably every 5 to 10 minutes in this film. So then, by nature, by calculations, you tell me, is this a space opera, a serious Star Wars film, a darker Star Wars film than The Force Awakens, or is this a comedy? Because people were laughing every 10 minutes. That's what a comedy movie does. It makes you laugh every 10 minutes or every 5 minutes. People were laughing every 10 minutes.